Hello and welcome to the Two-Ace Podcast, the podcast designed to help you manifest your Two-Ace mindset. My name is Josh Brooks and my one focus is success through the art of discipline and flow. I hope you enjoy the episode. Now let's get right into it. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is you're joining me. I hope you're having a good one. And today I'm joined by Alan Lazaros. He is the CEO of the Next Level University podcast, and he's a computer engineer and business coach. So Alan, how are you doing?
I am good. Thank you for having me. I do not take it lightly. I started listening to podcasts 9 years ago, and they really helped me reorient my life in a much more positive direction. And hopefully that's the goal of this episode as well.
Cool, nice one. Thanks for that. Yeah. So the topic of today's episode is alignment and how to align yourself with your true purpose. So Alan, sort of how do you have one sort of habit that you stick to that is your like bread and butter kind of thing to keep you aligned with where you want to go?
Yeah. So it's a meta habit and it's habit tracking. That's why I call it a meta habit, because I've been habit tracking for 9 years. I used to do them in these little tiny black notebooks. I actually have them in the corner of my office over there. And I used to write down, these 18 things a day. I used to call it a system of success.
Nice.
And I used to say, okay, here's my goal. Let me reverse engineer that goal. And here's the daily habits and tasks that I need to be doing. And here's the metrics that I need to be tracking. And I would literally, with a pencil, a mechanical pencil, I would actually check them off. Okay, gym, meditate, whatever it is, read for 20 minutes, you name it. And I would do habit tracking. And this was way before most of the habit tracking apps and stuff 9 years ago. I just did that for myself. I remember I had a friend who kind of made fun of me. He's like, if you spent half as much time doing the things as just tracking them, that kind of thing. But I stuck with it. And I've been habit tracking every single day for 9 years. I can authentically say that. That is by far. And so now I have, and again, the last thing I want to do is come on here and brag, but I need to provide context. I have 26 people that I coach. And that's not including the team. So we have a 22-person team. I have 26 people on my business coaching roster for clients. Youngest is 16, oldest is 63, everywhere from, hey, I want to start a YouTube channel all the way to I'm already a multimillionaire. Honestly, all of them are tracking habits. I've actually gotten to a place now, I'm very grateful for this, where I say I don't want to coach you unless you track. And I was just on with a team member earlier, her name's Riley, and we ran her report for the last 2 weeks of, okay, here are your habits. She has 11 habits. She has 3 metrics. The difference between a habit and a metric is like tracking your weight every day. A habit is going to the gym, so to speak. 30 minutes of exercise daily or something like that. And I ran a report and it showed, okay, are you on track or off track? And so the most important habit by far, the least sexy ever, by the way. And if you ever want to benchmark your perception of self up against reality, you habit track and realize how undisciplined you are. Because I got out of corporate, I was 26 years old. I was a straight A student in high school, computer engineer, master's in business, went in corporate. And then when I got out of corporate and I was my own boss as an entrepreneur, I realized how much less discipline I had than I thought I had. Because when no one is holding you accountable and you're only accountable to yourself, that's where real self-discipline is germinated and is born. And habit tracking is the best habit I can possibly articulate. And I think that I'm very grateful to have more people habit tracking than anyone I know. And I'm watching them gain success consistently over time. But I'll tell you what, none of it's quick fixes. None of it happens quickly. I have one client who has been with me for 2 years and his transformation photo is wild. But I said this on a podcast episode earlier today on my own podcast. I said, if he had come to me saying he wanted quick results, he thought he was going to get in shape in 2 months. It took 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And so habit tracking is not a quick fix. It's actually quite alarmingly challenging. But if you improve your system and then you improve your execution of that system and you stay consistent, you can really blow your own mind over the long term, even though in the short term, it's pretty much just painful.
Yeah, definitely. I habit track myself actually. I do it daily, so every day I go.
You do?
Yeah.
Nice. You're a habit tracker. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. You're in good company, man. Most people make fun of habit trackers.
Yeah, no. As soon as you came off with that, I was like, yes, let's go. Come on.
Okay,
I've got
nice.
so yeah, I've got my journals that I do. So I do like a weekly thing and a monthly thing and a daily thing. And yeah,
Nice.
it does get a bit monotonous, but
Yes.
yeah, no, literally exactly what you said. I've seen so much success since I've started doing that. I've been doing it for what, like, I want to say nearly 2 years, nearly two
That's
years.
that's a big deal. That's a
Yeah.
big deal, Josh. I wish that I was tracking habits at your age, my friend. I really do.
Yeah, and it's like it's sort of like a dynamic process because initially I started off like doing like at the end of the day I would go through everything I did, every single thing I did, and I'd either be like, why am I doing this, or oh, that's great, keep going, kind of thing. But now I sort of just do like I set my weekly goals as the main like bold statements, and I like write a tally or a tick or a little statement or whatever that sort of adds to that, so save time, and then I can use my creativity elsewhere when I'm journaling. And I also
Very
have it
nice.
on my whiteboards as well, which is really good. But yeah, so how do you actually do it? Like how do you habit track? Like, do you do it in the morning? And what sort of...
So I use Google Sheets, and it's free and it's cloud-based, so all my clients have their own dashboard. And we have our own dashboards for every team member as well. And we have a journal called the Dreamliner that we use. And essentially what it's there's a mountain on the front of it. And at the top of the mountain, there's a star. And the star represents your dream, which is sort of like a decade plus pie in the sky sort of dream statement. So every one of my clients has a mission statement. So an example would be one of my clients, her name's Adina. She has a ghostwriting business. To create enough revenue with enough recurring clients that I can live financially free and not have a low quality of life. That's a mission statement, just an example. That's her dream. Actually fairly simple. It's a fairly simple dream, and she can totally do it. So then we break that down into annual goals. So what do you need to achieve in 2024 in order to make that dream possible? Then we break that annual goal into quarterly goals. So Q3, we're in Q3 right now. So January, February, March is Q1, April, May, June, right? Q2, Q3. So we're in Q3. So we're 1 month and 6 days into Q3. I was on with a client earlier. We only 3 goals, by the way. 3 for the year, 3 for the quarter. I just checked in with a client earlier, and we just checked in. Okay, how are you doing towards your goal? Her goal is so simple. She wants to pay off $1,200 of her car by the end of the quarter. By the end of the year, she wants to pay off $2,400 of her car. And I checked in with her, and I said, how much have you paid off your car? That was her number one goal. She said $300. Perfect. It's actually $365. Okay, a little less than we needed. You needed every quarter to be $400 in order to get to your goal, but that's okay. We're a little behind. Now at least we know. And then those quarterly goals get broken down into what we call inch pebbles. So it's inch pebbles lead to milestones. Milestones lead to goals. Goals leads to dreams. So inch pebbles are daily habits. Milestones are quarterly goals. Goals are annual. And then your dreams are 10 plus years. And how do you reverse engineer? I'm an engineering mind, and I've been thinking in numbers my entire life. And I think for emotionally driven people, that can be really hard. When I was your age, a girl says, do I look fat? And you say, yes, at level 6 out of 10. You can't really say that. So you kind of learn not to be a math person, because math people are nerdy and they say hard truths that other people can't handle. And so forgive me for that part. But at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is you're not going to achieve goals without metrics. I mean, every company in the world has KPIs, key performance indicators, and they have goals and metrics. And I mean, if you're playing a video game or a sport without stats, you don't even know if you're winning, right? So how do you gamify your own life to make sure you actually are achieving? And that's, I think, why business coaching can be so hard, is you're just so held accountable to your own train tracks, so to speak.
Yeah. So what are the sort of metrics that you use then? Like, what do you track?
It all depends on the person. So it depends on the individual, and it depends on their dreams. One example would be your weight. A lot of people track weight. So if you, go ahead.
What about you personally?
Oh, me personally. So my 3 are, number 1 is gross revenue for NLU. Number 2 is number of coaching clients. My goal is 30 by the end of the quarter, 35 by the end of the year, and then cash on hand. Those are business metrics. Yeah. So if you have business owners listening, those are, gross revenue, basically how much can you earn? Number 2 is how am I earning that money is through coaching. So number of clients increases gross revenue. And then cash on hand is gas in the tank. If you run out of cash on hand, you go bankrupt. So those for me as CEO are the 3 that I track. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So from that, I take you're a very like a money driven person.
Actually, no, I'm trying to be though, because so when we started Next Level University, it's the company 7 years ago. It was called Hyperconscious Podcast back then. I used to believe mastery would bring impact and impact would bring revenue. Yeah, that's true, kind of. But the reason why I'm tracking those metrics is because I'm actually not as money oriented. I need to be, otherwise we're in trouble because we have a 22-person team. So payroll is ridiculous. It's just, we're coming up on, so this year we're projected to make, on the high end, we're doing $500,000 just this year. On the low end, we're looking at 400. But if we're on the low end and we continue expanding with 22 people, we're in trouble. So I'm actually not that money oriented. I just have to be in order to succeed in business, quite frankly. If it was up to me, I used to track fitness and mastery and the number of books I read and that kind of stuff. And then I had to pivot that when I became more of a business owner, because ultimately, as a business owner, I think most businesses are overly focused on revenue at the expense of their team and at the expense of impact. We were the opposite. We're a self-improvement company. So we were, of course, more focused on impact. And most of what we do at NLU is for free. So I needed to track revenue because I was so impact and mastery focused.
Yeah. Yeah. From what I've seen at NLU so far, it's super cool what you guys are doing. I definitely recommend people to go and check them out over there.
Thank you.
And it's pretty cool how you've adapted yourself to fit the vibe of being the CEO. So you weren't initially that money orientated, but now you are. So that's cool. So you mentioned mastery. You used to track mastery. How does that kind of work?
What a great podcast. This is awesome. Okay, so I have something that I call a GIP score, growth, impact, and profitability score. And we have one for NLU, and then I have one personally. And I call it my 10,000 hour tracker. So for me, there's only 5 things that I have decided in advance are congruent and aligned with my maximum contribution and my maximum potential. So the esoteric sort of crazy answer is I'm here to maximize my own unique potential, help others do the same. And I have to do that in a way that's profitable, essentially. And in order to do that, I do coaching, speaking, training, podcasting, and writing. Those are really the only 5 things that I do for the most part at this stage. And in the beginning, I had to do everything. So please don't start there, right? A lot of people hear that. It's like, well, all he does is coach now. Well, in the beginning, we had to audio edit and video edit and post on social media, all that kind of stuff. So as we've created a team, now I'm doing more of those things. So for me, I have something called the G3 target. It represents your genius zone. And in my notebook every single day, I have a little G3 target. And so far, it's coaching, training, and podcasting. Those are my big 3. That's coaching is 1-to-1. Training is 1-to-many. So like we have a group coaching program we do every quarter. I'm doing session 3 tonight. That's with 10 people. I'm considering that a training in this metaphor or in this target. And then podcasting is number 3. Today, I've already done 3 coaching sessions and 1 podcast. This will be my 2nd podcast. So when I'm done here, I'll give myself a check for podcast. So coaching, training, and podcasting is really what I'm optimizing for, because that's what the coaching is leading to revenue. Podcasting and training is leading to more impact, which then brings more coaching clients and warm leads. And all of it is the design. It's all built on self-improvement, fitness, and business. Those are kind of my 3 obsessions. So no matter what conversation I'm in, I always end up somehow talking about self-improvement. Goals, dreams, success, fulfillment, self-improvement, fitness, and business. And so if everyone out there watching or listening is like, okay, well, wow, you're dialed in. First of all, I didn't start there. This is not 9 years ago. I started figuring out what the hell I'm doing with myself. Number two, how do you only do 3 things? I don't. I do a lot of other stuff. I clean the house. Whatever. I have pets, all that. I still go to the gym. But I'm not trying to get more hours of those. So this 10,000 hour tracker that I told you about, the mastery piece, I'm only tracking coaching, training, and podcasting.
Got you.
My team huddles, we have a team huddle every other week to dial in our metrics as a company. Those I'm considering trainings. I also do a monthly training every month with the team. So 1-to-1, 1-to-many, 1-to-scale, and then rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. So if anyone out there is listening to this thinking I'm a strong speaker, it's not because I'm a strong speaker. It's because I've done this thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times. As a matter of fact, that's why I'm here. Number one, to impact your listeners in a positive way and to serve. And number two, practice my craft. When you ask me a new question, I get the opportunity to articulate something in a new way. And eventually the compound effect of that, I have about 8,000 hours now of coaching, speaking, and training, and podcasting and writing. And my communication skills have just come way up. I'm still garbage in some ways, honestly, but way better than I used to be.
I'm sure you're just being a bit humble there. You seem, just from the way you're talking so eloquently, it's beautiful how you're able to just create these sentences out of, just from that little sentence I said.
And thank you, Josh. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. And bearing in mind, you said something about optimization. So that's good timing there. You just took a swig of it. I was going to say, how do you keep your brain and your body sort of optimized and ready for all this stuff that you're doing? Is that some magic potion you're drinking?
Kevin said this to me. My business partner, his name's Kev. I've been working with him for 7 years, and he and I work extremely closely. I mean, we've done 1,788 episodes together as of today.
Oh, wow.
So he said, dude, I don't understand. You went 9 years without getting sick. He's like, I feel like people think you're a cyborg. And the truth underneath all that is I do think on some level, there's definitely a level of giftedness that I need to be clear about. And I'm very uncomfortable talking about this, to be completely honest, because a lot of people, a large percentage of the population, if I were to put people into a bucket, I know I'm not trying to pigeonhole anybody, but ultimately with all the coaching I've done, thousands and thousands of different coaching sessions, at this point, you just learn about people. Men and women, different cultures, different backgrounds, different countries, all over the world, all different. I mean, I just have a good sample set now. And most people fall into one of two buckets. The first bucket is people who feel not smart enough, not good enough, not capable enough, and they don't believe in themselves very much, even though they do pretend to. And then the other bucket is people who actually feel like they're too much for others. They don't feel relatable. They don't feel likable. They're constantly villainized or attacked, and they believe in themselves a lot, but they kind of dial it down because it's not really safe in public to do that because they trigger the insecurities of the other people. The larger bucket is the people who don't believe in themselves. For me, I've always been in the other bucket. So I don't struggle a ton with self-doubt. That'll be clear to anyone listening. It's actually scary to say that, to be honest, because that's not relatable at all. But what I do struggle with is vulnerability when it comes to sharing these hard truths about the fact that I don't. I mean, it would be easier for me to fake that I struggle with self-doubt to fit in than to say I kind of don't really, and I believe in myself a lot, and I work really hard and whatever. So to answer your original question, how do you optimize and make sure that you are able to do all this without burning out? The first part of that answer is the vulnerable part, which is I feel very capable in ways that I know is not statistically normal. And I guess you could call that gifted. I've always felt a little bit gifted, and that is like a big no-no. You're not allowed to say that. I'm saying it because I think it's important for people to understand, particularly if you don't feel gifted. There's a lot of people who are just gifted, and you can't compare yourself to them all the time. I coach a lot of people, and they struggle, and then they compare to me. It's like, listen, I'm not playing the same game. If you think everyone has the same potential, go play basketball with LeBron James. You're going to get smoked. Like, no one has the same potential. We're all born with different potential. And what is unique about you is probably wonderful. And you're better than me at something. But don't compare to me and my thing. And then, like, it's just not fair to you. So, number one is giftedness. Whatever. We're going to get off that because I'm too insecure. All right. The second piece is sleep, hydration, nutrition, training, mobility, breathwork, and supplementation. So at the end of the day, you just took a drink of water right there.
Yeah.
I have a water. I never don't have a water on my person. I get great sleep. I track my sleep with this Oura Ring. I hydrate consistently. I try to eat very nutritious foods. I exercise every day. So, and that's not an exaggeration. It actually is every day. So sleep, hydration, nutrition, training, mobility, breathwork, and supplementation. These are the fundamentals of fitness. I was a fitness coach, fitness competitor, fitness model for a long time. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, regardless of who you are, those are the 7. And if you dial those in, you're just going to be so much more capable. I mean, I used to drink too much and too often. I felt like crap. I didn't take care of my body or my mind, and I was still quote unquote gifted, but I was not nearly as dialed in. And when you feel like crap, you're not really going to be disciplined. You know, we all kind of know when we're sick and down and out, we don't really work hard. And so ultimately, I think taking care of yourself first needs to be the priority. Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah. Thanks for that. That was, that was special. Yeah. That was kind of what I was after. I feel like you believe in yourself almost to the point where you don't want to take like credit for it. You just put in it that you're gifted.
Josh, the one thing that I will say is very clear to me at this point in this episode is I think that you believe in yourself a lot too, because otherwise I would trigger you a lot. Yeah. And the fact that you're curious about things I'm saying is probably proof that you have probably been made fun of a lot for your goals. And I personally think that a lot of people who really do believe in themselves a lot, they get kind of bullied. Because it's not cool, right? It's cooler not to give a crap than to have goals and habit track. I mean, we're just nerds, right? So I don't look like a nerd, which actually makes it worse in some cases. But I am. I'm a nerd through and through. And so I'm grateful. I appreciate it. And hopefully I can add some value. But ultimately, people who don't believe in themselves, they get very insecure around people who do.
Yeah, I think I found that.
Yeah.
Yeah, too. Yeah. So wrapping it back into the alignment. So do you have sort of like a flow dojo kind of thing? I don't know if you've heard that terminology used before. Like you're at your desk right now, or you're at your working environment. How do you optimize that to ensure that it's you're aligned? You don't just sit down and get distracted by a piece of work that comes to mind. You're aligned with what you actually need to do, like as the end goal kind of thing, like the bigger macro.
Flow dojo. That is the first time I've ever heard that. So I adore that. Have you ever read a book called The Art of Impossible by Stephen Kotler?
I've not, no, but I can't take credit for the Flow Dojo. That's from Me High Chick Semi High.
Oh, nice. Yeah, mindset.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a book called The Art of Impossible by Stephen Kotler. I've interviewed him. He is the number one researcher of flow other than Mihai. And Mihai started it. So like he kind of stood on the shoulders of giants, so to speak, on that. At the end of the day, whatever. Flow is what I designed my entire life around. And that's very clear to anyone who considers themselves a high performer. Most people don't really care about flow. But yeah, ultimately my entire existence is built around making sure I don't get distracted. So I'm in my flow dojo right now. So this is my office. I made sure it's boring. I never put these lights on. Like as soon as this interview is over, the lights go off. I've never opened this shade to my left. I have windows and birds and all that. I will not ever open this window. So a lot of people don't like my lifestyle, and I understand why. I mean, it's boring. It's grind. You know, not everyone wants to work all the time. I get that. The problem with that is they do want great results. And so you can't really have one without the other, as much as the world wants to tell you you can. So for me, when you say a flow dojo, my whole home is designed around flow. My girlfriend, her name's Emilia. I call her my future wife, and then people say, congratulations. We're not engaged yet, but we're intending. And at the end of the day, her and I design our entire life around flow, and we try to minimize distractions. So my phone will never ring. There's only 3 people that can get my phone to ring. My business partner, Kevin, my mother, and my girlfriend. There's no notifications, like it's blank. There's no vibrations, there's no dings, there's no rings. I have an alarm set for 22 minutes and 43 seconds until my next session. And so for anyone listening who is a peak performer or a high performer or an achiever who really wants to play at Olympic level performance, you need to design your entire existence around flow, and you probably already know what flow is. For someone who is new to this achievement stuff, you're probably not even listening to this podcast, but if you are, you got to start with eliminating as many distractions as humanly possible. And the problem with that is you get bored, and people in boredom usually end up doing toxic things. And I've been guilty of this too. Drugs, alcohol, porn, the non-virtuous things usually come as a byproduct of boredom. Like most people are just constantly trying to distract themselves. And I try really hard to design my existence around endeavors that are not only virtuous, but also aligned with maximizing my potential. I used to talk about maximizing my potential, and Kevin said, dude, no one cares. And the truth of the matter is very few people in the world actually care about maximizing their own unique potential. But I don't want to get to the end of my life and wonder what could have been. And so I try really hard to get into flow as much as possible. And yeah, I would say my entire home is a flow dojo. And as a matter of fact, my girlfriend and I, we go to the gym together, and we don't even talk. We have sign language. So we literally will up, down, like we don't talk to each other. We both have AirPods in, which are noise canceling. We have our hats down. And so we're designing for flow. And before we get into the gym, I say, what are we optimizing for? And she says flow. And then we go. We set a timer for 40 minutes. We used to do 30, then it was 35. Now it's 40. But ultimately, and we're going to bump that number up, if you've not learned about flow, you have to. If you want to be wealthy, if you want to get in great shape, and if you want to be in love, you're pretty much going to have to learn about these things. And again, I would say I'm insecure about sharing this side of me because most people don't really care.
I definitely care, and I'm sure people listen to this care. That's flow is one of the 4 pillars of 2A's. So I wanted to get your opinion on that.
What are the other ones, brother?
You got discipline, consistency, flow, and achievement.
This is great. Cool.
Fire away with whatever thought that was.
Those are extremely high on my list of core values. All of those. Yeah. But that's very rare. So for anyone listening who has those core values, I mean, prepare to be disliked for sure.
Yeah. So discipline, that's an obvious one. How do you remain disciplined in what you're doing? Because going to the gym, I'm guessing you said 40-minute timer. Do you just stay in there for 40 minutes, no more, no less?
Yeah.
So just built that up over time.
Yeah. So Emilia and I, we started. So it was March 1st of 2022, and I was going to the gym with Emilia, and I said I want to try to beat my old best. The longest streak I had ever had of exercising daily was 4 months.
Oh, wow.
And I said, I want to beat my old best. And so she's like, I'll do it with you. And that's the type of person, I mean, it's unreal. And so I beat that. And then I was like, well, we might as well keep on going. And then we got past a year, and then I'll never forget it. We drove into the garage after a workout, and I was like, babe, it's been a year. It's March 1st, 2023 now. And she's like, and I'm like, now what? She said, let's do this for the rest of our life. Okay. it's gotten to the point now where sharing that story is actually not even, it's something that it requires courage to do. At the beginning, a fitness streak is cool, but Emilia and I are coming up on 2.5 years, and we've exercised every day for 2.5 years, and it's getting to the point where it's not cool anymore. It's just a big mirror. It's just kind of like, oh, good for you, bro. So at the end of the day, obviously this podcast is about consistency, discipline, peak performance, achievement, and flow. So yeah, we've exercised every day for 2.5 years, almost 2.5 years, since March 1st of 2022. And we just never missed. Now, here's the key. How did we do that, right? First of all, it was only a minimum of a half an hour. If we had tried to do 3 hours a day, I'm telling you, no chance. We have 3 businesses between the two of us. No chance. Okay, even a half hour a day, every day, has been really humbling. Now, is it possible? Yes. Will most people do it? Absolutely not. I would say most people are never going to do that. And that's fine. You don't have to want to do that. If you do want to do that, set the minimum low and then increase it over time. Number 2, everything counts, not everything. So walking my dog counts. Soccer counts. Basketball counts. Swimming counts. We did a 5K one weekend. That counted for that day. And what's important is it has to be strict enough to where you know what checks the box and it means something, but it has to be loose enough to where you can actually sustain it. And so at this point, we try to work out every other day. We did leg day last night. We set a timer for 40 minutes. And what's actually fascinating about this is it's actually been harder to discipline ourselves to leave than it has been to go at this stage. So when the timer went off last night, we both set it for 40 and then it's go time. When the timer went off, we have to leave. Finish your last set and let's go. The reason why is because if we let it leak, the next day we might not go. And so right now we're at 40 and we've been able to sustain it because there have been a lot of times where we went from 30 and then we tried to go to 45 and then we went all the way back to 30. So the minimum has been 30. So we have exercised every day for almost 2.5 years since March 1st of 2022, at least 30 minutes every day since then. And we have the streak going. And we also did it with our community. So it's called NLU Fit Pick Challenge for me. For her, she has a company called Evolve Ventures. So Team Evolve Moves is her hashtag. And we've been sharing it with the community and all that stuff. And now it's at the point where no one's doing it anymore because it's really hard to sustain. And so kind of everyone fell off. But her and I haven't. And so we're going to exercise. We're going to try to exercise every day for the rest of our life, but we're going to make sure the minimum always stays at least a half an hour. We're going to try. We went from 30 to 35 and now we're at 40. We're going to bump it to 45 most likely when she's ready, because if I'm honest, she's the one who is pushing us to do this more than me. She's not even impressed. I don't know how to explain it. She's just like, yeah, why wouldn't you exercise every day? I kind of feel that way too, but at the end of the day, it's definitely a very, very, very challenging thing, particularly when you're on a trip, when you're on vacation or you're with family or it's the holidays or whatever. So most people have a lot of excuses. And if you really do believe in consistency, discipline, achievement, and flow, you might want to give it a try, because I'll tell you what, there's nothing that will build your self-worth better than keeping the small promises you make to yourself every single day, particularly with your health. And the last thing I'll add about this is you just feel so good all the time. Like, people say, I have clients that are like, I don't understand. You do, 20 podcast episodes a week. Like, how do you do this? And the truth is, I never could have done this in my 20s when I felt like crap. I can only do this because it's the level that I've gotten to over time. I did this incrementally. I didn't start with 20 a week. We started with 1 a week 7 years ago. And that was hard, quote unquote, hard, right? So hard is relative to who you are, and where you are at this current stage. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. That was, you really nailed the nail. You really hit the nail on the head. Is that the word? Yeah, that's the same. Yeah. So sort of, I know you've got to go very soon. So just to wrap this whole thing up.
I've got 13 minutes, 14 minutes. If you do want to take those minutes, feel free, my friend. I've been enjoying this a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll ask another question then.
Okay.
So, um, So I read your profile on Podmatch, and it said that you experienced a pretty life changing event when you were 20 in your mid-20s. I don't suppose you mind me asking about that.
No, not at all. Yeah, please do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So the main thing is I was going to ask is, number one, what was the, because you said that you took a note of all the regrets that you had in your life, and you switched it around. So number one, what's your biggest regret that you noticed then, and number two, what what was like the defining moment of, oh wait, this is the thing now, like I need to switch it around.
Yeah. So to provide context, my father passed away in a car accident when he was 28 years old. I had a stepfather from age 3 to 14. And my stepfather left my family when I was 14, and he took his entire extended family with him. I haven't seen any of them since. I have spoken to my stepdad briefly on Facebook Messenger. That was the hardest year of my life because of some other stuff that happened at that time. But I kind of realized that I was in some trouble. If there was no sort of trust fund, there was no future safety net. He took 90% of the income with him. My mom didn't have a good income. And I didn't know this at the time because I was only 14 and this was mostly unconscious. But we didn't really associate much with my birth father's side anymore because we were trying to be the Lazaroses. My real last name is actually McCorkle. So my birth father's from a big Irish Catholic family: Jim, Joe, John, Jane, Joan, Jeanette. And John is my dad, John McCorkle. And I took my stepdad's last name, Lazarus, around age 7. And then when he left, we didn't really associate with the McCorkles during that time. And then my mom's side of the family kind of ostracized us because her and her sister got in a big fight. So I kind of lost 3 families all in a single year. And my sister moved out at that same time too, and we kind of went broke. And again, we weren't going to starve, but we went from 90s .com bubble. My stepdad worked for a computer company that did hospital computers named AGFA, boats, and we had a yacht, and he got the yacht in the apartment building. We got the house and the dog. And then we went from BMWs, ski trips, snowmobiles, Xbox, Dreamcast to like, I get free lunch at school now because our income is so low. And so something clicked inside of me that said, okay, the past is painful, the present is painful, and you're screwed if you don't do something about this. I've since analyzed this upside down and sideways. I've done a lot of therapy in my 30s, and I've tried to understand how the hell I made this work. Because there's something called an ACE score, Adverse Childhood Experiences, ACE. And there's a lot of research and psychology underneath this, but essentially I have a very, very, very high ACE score. Essentially very high. Yeah. And that's a polite way to put it. But anyways, how did I get here? Like, most of the people that experience what I experienced, statistically speaking, end up early mortality. And that's what the ACE score talks about, is people who have a high ACE score, statistically speaking, end up usually dying young. Car accidents, drugs, alcohol, you name it. And I dealt with my own vices for sure. I mean, I had a time with drugs and alcohol as well. But at the end of the day, how the hell did I get here? I mean, it's, in hindsight, it's wild. And so the only thing I could come up with is self-belief. Because how can 2 people from the same family with the same terrible upbringing have 2 completely different reactions? And I figured out that it's self-belief. And I don't know where I got it. And that might have been the gifted thing. I don't know. But for some reason, I just always believed in my ability to make chicken salad out of chicken shit. And I still do. I mean, I have tough days, but it ignites me somehow. Like, hard times, my business partner, Kev, he's like, dude, I need some wins. I can't just fail towards success forever. Like, I need some W's. And now I kind of understand that when he fails, he doubts himself a lot. And when I fail, it just motivates me. And I know that's not normal. So if you're out there listening and that's not your reaction, I'm not making that wrong. For some reason, my trauma response was, number 1, be a social coward, and which is fawn, just appease. And then number 2, fight to be better. For some reason, my trauma response was fight to be better, achieve higher, aim higher, work harder, get smarter, work harder, aim. It's just who I am at this point. Was it my wiring? Was it my destiny? I don't know. Here's what I do know. My biggest regret is being a coward. There's two types of cowardice, I think. There's two types of courage. I call one of them competence courage. I have a lot of competence courage. Competence courage is apply to the school, apply to the job, show up for the interview, write the cover letter, write the resume, do the LinkedIn, blah, blah, blah. But socially, I was such a coward. Social courage is sticking up for what you believe in. Social courage is being honest when you say, honestly, I don't resonate with that. I don't feel not smart enough. I feel more than smart enough. Like it's not scary for me to say I suck. I'm happy to say I suck. If anything, that makes me more relatable. What's scary for me is to say, I think I might be gifted. And please don't hate me for that. And so at the end of the day, my biggest regret is being a social coward and allowing people to kind of shit on me and not realizing that that was my bottleneck. And that's what I'm working on really hard. And in my 30s, I started doing therapy and I started reflecting and rewatching the movie of my own life. And I started to really dig into my past and my trauma. And I realized it makes sense. I mean, my trauma response to adversity was aim higher, work harder, get smarter. And most people's deepest insecurity is they don't feel smart enough. And so I just trigger everybody. And then they treat me poorly sometimes because obviously their trauma response might be fight. It might be attack. It might be threatening to be around me. I get it. It might feel threatening. It's not actually threatening. I'm not dangerous by any means. But when I give a speech, a lot of people are very triggered because I think deep down they feel not good enough. And I'm portraying some stuff that maybe I do feel good enough and I do feel smart enough and I do feel capable enough. And so maybe it's a big mirror and some people have reverence and humility and they become a student and they learn from it. And other people, they attack energetically and verbally or whatever. And so I never felt very likable. And I wish that I understood how much that affected me because I think I spent too much of my life trying to fit in because I never felt likable. And I wish that I hadn't done that because I think that my calling or my purpose, whatever you want to call it, my mission is to stand out, not to fit in. And so I've had to fight in every part of my being during this interview to actually stand out instead of fit in. Because you're asking me questions that no one cares about. I mean, no one asks me that stuff. And they say, oh, that's so cool that you run your own company and you have a 22-person team and you've done 1,788 episodes, but no one ever asks me how I pulled it off. Unfortunately, because honestly, not anyone could do that. But you know what you should get curious about? How. You should get curious about the how. You shouldn't be celebrating the shiny object. What you should go is beneath the surface of that iceberg and figure out the stuff underneath it that actually matters. And that's actually why I really enjoyed this interview.
Yeah. Thanks for that. That's exactly. Yeah, I love that. Cheers. So to sort of wrap this episode up, we sort of went about how to ensure you're aligned with your purpose, your mission. From what I've got from you, it's self-belief and ensuring you're truly dedicated. Is that what you would?
The one piece that I would add, and this is the piece that I struggled with for the longest time, is self-worth. Self-worth. So if you were to ask me, what are the two things that everyone wants? I would say it's self-belief and self-worth. When you see someone who is quote unquote successful and fulfilled, what's underneath that is they actually believe in themselves and they actually value themselves, not from an ego place, not from an inauthentic. I mean, most people pretend to love themselves when in reality, deep down, they really don't. The ego is very intellectual. And then you have the subconscious and the unconscious. And I'm talking about on the unconscious level. Like you've gotten to a point where you love yourself like you would love a friend. You treat yourself as well as you would treat a friend who you love. And you actually do believe in yourself. Most people think they believe in themselves, but deep down they don't. So there's this weird wonky ego thing. Whereas I actually have met people who believe in themselves a lot, but think they don't. They have what I call sneaky self-belief. It's very cool. That's why they do so much, right? These amazing, humble people that do so much behind the scenes. They're like, I don't know. I don't really think I believe in myself. It's like, trust me, you do. You just have low self-worth and don't know it. And so that's what I think everyone's after, is self-belief and self-worth. And I have a formula for each that I help people build. And that's not some plug of come coach with me. What I'm saying is, I can give it to you here. I mean, we have 3 minutes. If you want me to give you the formulas, I can. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're really after. You're not after the Ferrari. Who cares? Let's be honest. You know what you're after? You're after actually feeling good about yourself and actually believing in yourself. And that's what we all want. And that's why people who have it trigger the hell out of everybody, because it's a mirror. It makes you realize, holy crap, especially young people. I mean, everyone who's young either feels great about themselves because they're naturally gifted and they developed early. I was a prepubescent. I mean, I look young now. Imagine me in high school, right? So I was like a nerd, wicked low self-worth, but tons of self-belief. Other people are the opposite. Inflated self-worth. They're athletes. They can dunk a basketball at 14, but they don't believe in themselves deep down, and they just are arrogant. And so the idea here is, how do you stay humble and confident? How do you believe in yourself and feel worthy? It's an and, not an or, and you can do it. And I think that's what maturity ultimately is.
Wow. Yeah. Thanks for that. That's an awesome note to wrap it up on. I really appreciate that.
Josh, thank you.
Before I leave you guys today, I just want to say a massive thank you to Alan for joining me today. This has been great. And I hope you guys feel more aligned with your purpose now. You just make sure to document your progress by having that meta habit of habit tracking. If it's daily, if it's weekly, if it's monthly, just get on it. If you're truly determined to fulfill your purpose, to fulfill your goals, to achieve mastery in whatever aspect of life that you want to, just start tracking your habits, ensure you are aligned to your purpose, make sure that you know each metric that you're tracking, and ensure that every little thing that you do in your life is directed towards the end goal, that dream, that end dream where you want to be in 10 years, 20 years time. Make sure that you understand how to break that into annual goals, quarterly goals, them little pebbles and them day-to-day steps that you need to do to fulfill and to achieve what you want to achieve. Like I said, thank you, Alan. It's been great. As always, I've been your host, Josh. Thank you for this opportunity. Remain consistent, achieve dreams, 2 Ace, one focus.